Hello, and welcome back to Emerge, the health podcast for busy, high performing women. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Swenson Ridley. And the first thing you might notice is that we've changed the name of the show. And I wanted to share a little bit about how that came about and why that is within the context of a larger conversation around our language and the power of the things we speak. I spent my weekend and part of last week. I'm moving my entire website platform, like literally everything, including courses and all of the stuff, onto a new host. And in doing that, I was kind of looking through all the stuff that I've created over the years and, what's there and what is good and what maybe I don't want to keep and what I want to recreate. And I was really present to just kind of the evolution of, both my business, this show, me through all of this, and recognized not that I don't, there's a level of our language and things that we relate to, right? And how we speak kind of creates or detracts from our actual power. And I talk about us being empowered as women and really, up to big things and clear on our passion and like living that in a big way. And I know for myself, I experience these kind of cycles or seasons, if you will, where sometimes I'm more aligned with my passion, my mission, my vision, my purpose, and, being, I don't really want to say unafraid, but, just being authentically real and putting myself out there. And other times I'm kind of holding back in some way. And I've really, the last couple of years, have been present to being in that place of like not being completely fully aligned with who I know myself to be. And I've talked a lot about it, keeps coming up, but letting our light shine. This is from the Marianne Williamson quote, "Our deepest fear," which I quote all the time. You can Google it if you want to read the whole thing. I don't have it all memorized, but our deepest fear being that we are powerful beyond measure, not that we are inadequate in some way. And so many of us live in this place of inadequacy, or belittling ourselves, or using language that doesn't have any power behind it. There's power words. Like, I view emerge as a lot more powerful than rejuvenated, or rejuvenate, and even emergent, which is the name of my business. And so I decided to make some changes just to align everything better with the language that I'm using and the ecosystem, if you will. I've heard a lot of talk about, business ecosystems and whatnot, but with that ecosystem that I'm creating. And I wanted to talk about that in the context of your own life, because I can guarantee that there are some places where you show up as the real authentic you, and then places where you're holding back. And I coach with and talk with a lot of women through this, because, whether it's like family relationships or trauma that happened, or, we were taught at some point to be a people pleaser, and so we're trying not to do that in this one area of our life because we just are stuck in this pattern there. There are these places where we don't show up authentically, and ultimately what that becomes is, it's an issue of our identity, it's our integrity with ourselves, it can be a lot of things. And I know at times I've become really frustrated by just, how I act, how I want to say how I be in the world, like my way of being. And it's really important to, especially in the healing process and just in stepping into our own authentic, like, being, essentially, to acknowledge that and just be aware of how we create ourselves in our lives. Because ultimately it's us, and the thing that is creating us is the words that we speak, and, how they land, and the power behind them, or the lack of power behind them. For example, I've had clients that are like, well, I'm going to try to get off the sugar or the Diet Coke or the coffee. I'm going to try this week, Dr. Alex. And I hate the word try. And so we are going to just take trying out of our vocabulary, right? You are either going to do it or you're not. When you're trying to do something, you are just basically not committing. So the word try is one of those words that detracts from our power and ability, because if you're just trying to do something, it's essentially saying you're not committed and you're not going to do it. And so we have to be really aware of the words that we speak and the intention behind them, even if it's subconscious. So I want you to just be aware of and think about the language that you use, whether it's talking about your health, or your life, or in your, conversations with your husband, or in your relationships with other people, or at work? Like, where are you maybe holding yourself back, not really speaking your truth, or using language that essentially diminishes who you really are and what you're up to in the world, and essentially playing life small? And what I mean by that, when we talk about this, it's not about like suddenly being really bold and aggressive in all of your conversations, or belittling other people, or becoming mean and nasty. It's about really connecting to that thing within ourselves that describes and explains what we're up to in the world, and not being afraid to express it. And I know I'm not the only woman that struggles with this, because I've coached several of you who listen to the show, and others, that, we can all identify, like I said, that area of our life where maybe we're not being our authentic self. And until we can really align all that and find that congruence that translates in all areas of our life, I will make the argument that you will not be as healthy as you could be. You will not be, as successful as you could be. You will not feel as fulfilled as you could feel until you really bring all of that together. And sometimes that can be scary or involve big change, or, as it did for me over the weekend, mean that you suddenly rename a bunch of things. And what I want to leave you with, like, I'm not, and I still love the term rejuvenated women. I'm all about, finding peace and tranquility, and all of those things that we've always talked about, and nothing's really changed. I just connected in a more powerful way. I feel like I've been stepping into my power in terms of, with this show, and where I want to lead everybody, and, the thought leadership and the interviews and all the stuff that we bring on is really about having you become empowered in your own health, in your own life, in your own leadership, in your own passions and things that you are up to in the world. And Rejuvenated Women just didn't cover that anymore. So we have rebranded. The show is now called Emerge, the health podcast for busy, high-performing women. I'm really excited about it. I feel like it communicates everything with a lot more pizzazz, if we want to call it that. But also just really speaks to, if you think about emerging, it's like we're growing and emerging into something new, and I don't want to say like a better version of ourselves. We can say that that's going to work. And that process isn't like a one-time deal. It's something we're constantly creating, and that's always evolving. And that we might have lulls where we kind of come down, and then we go back up. But I feel like I've been in my own process of, really emerging into my new career path, and my, identity, and like who I really am and what I'm up to in the world. And there's been aspects of, my personal life in places where that hasn't been communicated and translated well. And so hopefully this, just me talking about this helps all of you be able to think about your own life, and like, where are you holding back? Where are you not really being you? And it can be confronting and scary. And then, the next piece is going to be figuring out, what are you going to do about that? How do you start to change? Is it just changing how you speak and being intentional with your language? Is it, you need to make a big change, leave a job, start a business, leave a relationship, get into a relationship? Like, what is going to be the thing that helps you fully align in all areas of your life, so that you can move forward? And that is where I come in a lot of ways. So I'm happy to connect with anybody, just to have a connect call. Nothing salesy going on about this at all. There's a link to it in the show notes, but just an opportunity to connect and kind of talk through some of this stuff and help you figure out a game plan. If I can help, I'll share what that would look like if you wanted to hear about it. But there's that's not the goal of the call. The goal of the call is to just have you have more clarity and a path to move forward and emerge into who you really are, because ultimately that's what this is about. And who you really are can change throughout your life. So a lot of times when we're going through transitions, or getting older, or something happens, who we are can change. But it's about reconnecting to that in a powerful way, and then being able to be in the world and exist in that way as well. So I hope this helps serve you. I'm excited about this change and all of the things. look at the show notes for a link to, set up a time to connect if that's something that would be helpful or beneficial to you. I love to just connect and chat with people, and we will see you on Thursday for our interview episode.